We stand at a crossroads where the telescope's gaze meets the prophet's vision, and the cold logic of the laboratory intersects with the fervent warmth of the heart's prayer. This collision, often framed as a battle, is, in truth, an invitation to a deeper understanding of the divine mind that underpins all existence. Sacred texts, woven from the fabric of revelation and antiquity, speak of origins, purpose, and destiny in language not of equations and quantifiable data, but of poetry, parable, and enduring spiritual truth. They offer the why of creation, the ultimate meaning and relationship between humanity and the Creator, a question that the empirical method, by its very nature, is neither equipped nor intended to answer. When we read the Genesis account of creation, are we seeking a textbook on geology, or are we encountering the foundational assertion that all that is the product of a singular, intentional, and transcendent will? The religious perspective does not diminish the scope of the universe revealed by science. Rather, it magnifies the majesty of the divine architect, whose blueprint is so vast and intricate that it takes both faith and physics to begin to comprehend its brilliance. The wonders unveiled by modern cosmology, from the incomprehensible vastness of intergalactic space to the precise calibration of physical constants that allow life to exist, the fine-tuning of the universe, do not necessarily disprove the concept of a divine hand. For many of faith, they provide overwhelming confirmation. The discovery that the universe began at a singular moment, an event scientists term the Big Bang, echoes the ancient scriptural declarations that creation was an event initiated by a word or a command, a sudden bringing forth from nothingness. The texts speak of creation ex nihilo, from nothing, a concept that for centuries was philosophically and scientifically baffling, but now aligns in spirit, if not in detail, with the prevailing cosmological model. This convergence is not a capitulation of faith to science, but a realization that the two great books, the book of Scripture and the book of nature, tell the same grand story of an ordered, purposeful cosmos, each using a unique and complementary vocabulary. The sacred texts provide the narrative of relationship and meaning, while the physical sciences reveal the stunning elegance of the mechanism itself. Furthermore, the complexity found at the cellular and molecular level, the intricate dance of DNA and proteins that constitute the very machinery of life, has led many deeply thoughtful scientists of faith to an attitude of reverence, recognizing in this complexity a manifestation of supreme intelligence. The argument is not one of a God of the gaps, where the divine is invoked only to explain what is currently unknown, but a recognition that the foundational elegance and information content of the simplest life form transcends mere random chance. Religious tradition views the human being as a logos-imbued creature, made in the image of the divine, possessing consciousness, moral capacity, and the ability to seek truth, qualities that remain profound mysteries to purely materialist explanations. This spiritual dimension, the very essence of sacred texts, provides a framework for understanding not just our biology, but our intrinsic value and moral obligation to one another and to the stewardship of the planet. The concept of time itself is handled differently by the two perspectives, offering a classic point of perceived conflict. Scientific chronology, stretching back billions of years, seems irreconcilable with the often literal, shorter timelines derived from certain interpretations of Scripture. Yet theological scholars have long explored the idea that divine time operates on a scale entirely different from human, finite time, often citing verses that state, "1,000 years are but as a day in your sight." The divine perspective encompasses eternity, where the temporal boundaries we experience are simply part of the creative process, an extended unfolding rather than a 6-day snapshot. This interpretation allows the believer to embrace the geological and evolutionary evidence without sacrificing the literal truth of the text's assertion that God is the author of life's diversity. Evolution, from a theological perspective, can be seen as the elegant and sustained method by which the Creator brings forth the plenitude of life, a continuous act of creation rather than a one-time event long past. The true conflict, therefore, is rarely between genuine religious faith and honest scientific inquiry. It is often between a rigid, literalistic interpretation of Scripture and a reductionist, materialist philosophy of science. When faith insists that its texts are purely historical and scientific documents, it misses the transcendent spiritual message. And when science asserts that its methodology is the only valid path to truth, it denies the reality of subjective experience, morality, and ultimate meaning that define the human condition. The religious worldview proposes a reality that is more than its physical components, a reality infused with purpose, meaning, and a moral structure that transcends the arbitrary. This transcendent reality is the domain of faith, the ultimate context within which all scientific discovery gains its most profound significance, transforming knowledge from mere data into wisdom. This integration demands intellectual humility from both sides. The scientists must acknowledge that while their tools can measure the material universe with breathtaking precision, they cannot quantify hope, love, or the experience of the sacred. The person of faith must acknowledge that the revelation found in Scripture is concerned with eternal truth and salvation, not with the mechanisms of planetary motion or quantum mechanics. The narratives of the sacred texts, the flood, the miraculous healings, the resurrection, speak not only to historical occurrences, but to archetypal truths about chaos and order, brokenness and redemption, mortality and triumph over death. They are a spiritual roadmap, and their enduring power lies not in their ability to pass a peer review process, but in their capacity to transform the human spirit and connect it to the infinite. The quest for truth, whether undertaken through the microscope or through meditative prayer, is ultimately a shared endeavor, a continuous searching for the wisdom embedded in the cosmos. Every law of physics discovered, every star charted, every gene mapped, is an unveiling of a portion of the Creator's handiwork, prompting awe and reverence in the observant soul. The believer recognizes that the same divine intellect that inspired the prophetic writings also established the constants of the universe. To study science is, in this light, an act of worship, a rigorous attempt to learn the mind of God by studying the work of God. Therefore, the supposed collision between science and sacred texts dissolves into a harmonic resonance when viewed through the lens of a mature, contemplative faith. Sacred texts ground us in meaning, morality, and relationship. Science elevates our understanding of the creation's complexity and scale. Together, they offer a holistic vision of reality, one that is both physically measurable and spiritually profound. The journey beyond belief is not a flight from faith, but an expansion of it, where the miracles of antiquity are paralleled by the miracles revealed daily through empirical discovery, confirming that the universe is not only comprehensible, but is also permeated by an intelligence and glory that truly transcends our full grasp.